Hi, I'm Tracy Sofra and welcome to the Women of Wealth podcast dedicated to helping women thrive in every area of her financial life. Today, I'm going to be joined by Lisa Hutton, and Lisa is a member of the WOW community and she recently completed the Financial Confidence Program. I asked Lisa to join me today to share with us her experience. Welcome, Lisa. How are you?
I'm well, Tracy. How are you? Thanks for having me.
It's an absolute pleasure to have you. What I'm going to ask is, first and foremost, introduce yourself to us. Tell us a little bit about what your financial situation was before joining the Empower program. So give us a bit of a snippet on that, including things like how you were feeling sort of emotionally, some of the thoughts that were running through your mind. So, so our audience can get a feel for where you're at prior to joining.
Yeah. Thanks for asking. Before I joined, I was felt like I was kind of walking on loose sand. So I didn't really know where to step. It felt like unsure footing. I wasn't really sure if I did step somewhere, whether it would have a good foundation. So I was a little bit lost in that sense. I knew that there was a path. I just couldn't quite find it. And the reason why I really was excited when I saw your program, and this is kind of how I choose things that feel aligned, is when I feel really excited, even though you don't really know what the outcome's going to be. So the financial sort of component of where I was at, I had sort of monies and bits and pieces. Nothing was invested. I didn't have a lot of a nest egg, if you want to call it that, but I also didn't have a lot of debt. So I had no debt. So I was kind of in the sense of ready to do something, didn't know what to do, didn't know where to step. And there's so many stories that you hear of people kind of trusting in the wrong person, or sometimes it could be a charlatan, or somewhere, so that when you're ready in that sense, when you're ready to look for what you're actually supposed to be doing, unfortunately people can come across others that are ready to take that and not be doing it in a way of integrity. So so I was I wasn't as buffered as some people that I know. They've come into the program that have got all this property and inheritance and all that sort of stuff. So I wasn't in that sort of level, but I was definitely needing some direction of where to go from what I had. So it was a nice way to step forward somewhere. So it was really good timing is one way to put it. However, good timing probably would have been a long time ago as well. Every moment is a good time, I suppose, in saying that. So I was really super grateful to see you and to see the program pop up for me when it did. It was really really a confidence boost is probably not the right word, but empowerment, I suppose. Yeah.
And so in that you're talking about when you're ready, not knowing, basically I sort of say where to go, who to trust, what to do. What was the thing that resonated with you to entrust that journey with WOW?
Yeah, for me, it felt aligned and resonant for me. So the way you spoke, the honesty and integrity, the energy that you presented yourself with, and also when I had questions, they were actually answered. So going into the program, when I spoke to Taryn, which is one of your beautiful team, when I was talking to her, she was also aligned. So I just felt like it was a fit for myself with what you were creating. So it was really a trust in myself, and therefore trusting in your team to know that was the right way to go about it. And it is an investment. So there was a little bit of is this the right way? Because it is a little bit of financial investment. So I was like, but then from the other side of my brain, I was like, well, what else are you going to do?
Good
And
point.
the
Great point.
beauty about this program is it really starts from the basics. So, because I've tried to speak to financial planners in the past, and I've worked with financial planners, and they kind of only want to see you when you have a certain amount of money to invest. So, this really, for me, this bridges the gap from really having very incidental, some people like very incidental financial investment, because that's not what it's about. It's building the knowledge to then create the wealth to then invest it. So there was that gap between, I found. And so this is the beauty that I haven't seen anybody else offer in my investigations in through the many years. So yeah, I've gone into offices of financial planners, and they're like, "Well, let us know when you're at this point." And I'm like, "Well, how do I get there? You know, I want to be there." So there was no, I think from their point of view, it was where to invest the money once you had it. So
Yeah, yeah. That's a great point that you point out. Obviously, I still practice as a financial advisor in my private practice, but that's one-on-one personal advice. This is obviously financial education literacy, and it came about, I mean, the impetus or the vision that WOW has is to empower every single woman we come into contact with, and we want to come into contact with every Australian woman, obviously, and to
yeah,
give
yeah,
them the tools, exactly what you're saying, the basic foundational knowledge, the tools, the skill set, all of the stuff that they need to be able to build wealth. And in order to do that, it starts from grassroots stuff like, have you done a budget? Do you know what your income and expenses are? And if you've got a surplus, how about you think about allocating that if there's debt, some debt reduction or a combination of things? Have you looked at your super? Have you considered, whether it's term deposits for short-term investing, long-term, and understanding the difference between short and long-term investing and the word investing, what does that mean? Most people think it's saving money in the bank, and it's not. So providing this level of education and knowledge to women to put that power back in their hands so that they can make decisions that then bring them to a position where they've actually got some stuff that they've invested. But I'm guessing at that point they may not even need an advisor, but they may. Typically speaking, in my industry, I'm going off on a bit of a rant here, I shouldn't be, but typically in my industry, yes, point taken, Lisa, a lot of financial planners, we don't do that in my private practice. We start from grassroots. Particularly, most financial advisors want to see you so they can invest your money and write some insurance. And that's not true financial planning. That is not financial planning at all. It really is about assisting the client from every single aspect of their financial life. But I just wanted to make that point because you've expressed it in such a beautiful, clear way for anyone listening that yes, the financial confidence program offered, which is the one that you completed called Empower, is exactly that, to put that power back in your hands and to get you to a position where you're able to make those confident financial decisions. So it's pleasing to hear that from you. I want to touch on some of your biggest fears. When you thought about your retirement years, and this is before you joined the program, what was the biggest fear when you did think about your retirement years? Or, if you're a bit too young for that, which you are a bit young, sometimes it's not easy to think about retirement, but what the future held for you financially?
yeah. Well, it's actually interesting you say that, because I've been worried about my retirement since I think my late teens, maybe early 20s, because I didn't know what it felt like, a real mystery. And I didn't know how people got there. So, I think there's some generational wealth that comes into things, or, whether or not they're managing things through the government support or what have you. I just didn't understand how it all worked. And so it's been on my mind for a long time. And I didn't realize, and I don't know why. You know, sometimes you know about it, you know of it, and people sort of walk around. It feels like everyone walks around with the knowledge but you.
Or
And so
pretending
you
to know, or pretending to know.
pretending to know. I think
Yeah.
what it is you're thinking, well, I don't really need to. I shouldn't ask because everyone else seems like they've got it together, and I don't know what I'm doing. And so which is great. This is part of it, right? So when I came into the program, I was like, oh, these are the steps. This is, you've got your beautiful calculator and your spreadsheets, and this is if you invest this amount per month, year, whatever, to get to this point, and if you want to live off of this amount per year, this is what you need, like all this sort of stuff. Like, oh, this is how you do it. And I
Uh-huh.
had no idea. And if I had this a long time ago, I would have set this up and it wouldn't have been anxiety for all these years. And I don't know where people get this information from otherwise. I don't know whether there's like a club I don't know about or something, like I don't know. I'm not sure. And it's actually interesting because a lot of the things that I was learning through the program, I'd sort of mention it to my either women friends or male friends, and that it tended to be the male friends like, oh yeah, I've got this, and they don't share it. And the women like, oh really? Oh, I need to. So it was really interesting looking at the differences of the conversation of awareness. Just the little strategies and bits and pieces, not huge, but just little bits and pieces that you can do, and the super and the cap and that sort of stuff. Filling up to the 30,000. Like I'd mention it to the two different genders, and the men knew, but the women didn't, kind of thing. And it was like, how does this? Is there a yeah. Anyway, it was really interesting. Some of the things that I've noticed going through the program prior to, and obviously through and then now, I don't know, it's amazing what this program does. At the same time, it's just disheartening that there's not more awareness as well. Yeah,
Makes
it's
it's made you aware that there isn't enough awareness about the basic financial principles of money, investing, what to do with it, just the basic knowledge. As you just said before, one of the biggest questions is how much do I need to retire on? There are numbers out there that, they say if you're single and if you're kind of frugal, it's this. If you're high end, it's this. There are those numbers out there. But look, I always say the best way to think about that is just to think, okay, well, based on what I know to be true today, and we're not doing net present values and going off and doing mathematics. Best case scenario now, I need 60, 70, 80, whatever it may be. General rule of thumb, divided by a rate of return. What does that mean? Well, if I invested that money based on my risk profile, as you know, is in the program, your tolerance to risk. If I was to invest it and I was a balanced investor, and generally speaking, they get 7%, I would divide that figure into 7% into that figure, and I'd get a lump sum. And that's where people get the $1 million from. $1 million at 7% is 70 grand, or 6% is 60 grand. And then all of a sudden you go, oh, I need $1 million. And then you panic if you're like 5 years out, you're like, oh. But then again, as I always say, having started and done something, you're always going to be better off than sitting around doing nothing. So however old you are, whatever we call it, the runway, whatever you've got is what you've got. Can't change the past, but we can certainly make a huge difference with what is left over with this basic knowledge. Thank you for sharing that insight, because it's not commonly spoken about. Let's talk motivation. So what motivated you to start thinking seriously, about investing for your retirement?
You. um, I think for me, I didn't know where to step. I kind of felt like it was separate from me. And going through this, I realized it wasn't. It was just I didn't have the guidance. So I felt like I was walking through a door and the door had like it had all the answers, and I just didn't understand why I didn't have them before, because I don't know, it was a strange feeling going from, because I've I've worked in financial services before, and I've worked in different industries over the years. And again, I think that's where it came to play, is how do I not know? Is there something that sort of just happens at one point and it just sort of sorts itself? So I feel like when I went through this, it was really an answer to all my questions that I didn't even know I had.
Isn't that interesting? Yeah. So it
Yeah.
opened up a whole bunch of other questions.
Yeah, yeah. So it kind of led down a path, and like, oh, if we've got this, and then it became the strategy in your brain starts going as well. So when you start having a few answers or a few understandings, you're like, oh, what about this? And you get really excited because you think, oh, I can actually do this. Oh, there is actually a road down here. There is an answer to this. There is a comfort. And what I think is beautiful with it is it unlocks the mystery. For me, answers feel comforting. I love the truth. I love understanding where things are at. So when you mentioned a runway, whether it's 5, 20, 2 years, whatever it is, no matter what, you've got answers, you know where you're at. And for me, that's comforting. I love understanding where things are going, and the levers that you can change and that sort of stuff. And that's what you provide in the program. It's like, well, if you want 70,000 at retirement, you need this. And so if you don't, but you also mention around, the government support. If you wanted to do this, you can have this. And, there's ways and means. And I think the anxiety of getting to the retirement or leading up to retirement, you're like, it's not all doom and gloom, because I was like, oh, okay, well, retirement's coming. I've got how many years I can live, and then that's it. So it's given me a assurance and a breather, and it's really taken that anxiety out of many, many years of anxiety, that I lived with, but also now that I understand, a lot more years of feeling empowered and being more myself.
Yeah, so you talk about getting those answers. So those tools, those downloadables, like the
Yeah.
Ready Reckoner, basically where you pop in, how many years have you got? What's the income you require? It picks up, or I think it asks you your risk profile. You pop that in there, and it picks up the excess cash flow that you've done your cash flow analysis, which is basically your budget, pops it in there and says, and you're going to use this excess for that period of time. Here's what it looks like. It's just a Ready Reckoner, and an Excel spreadsheet, but it basically they're the parameters. So if you don't like the outcome, what can you change? Okay, well, you either live off less. Okay, what does that look like? Can I do that? And it's like, well, absolutely not. All right, well, can I work longer? Maybe, yeah. Okay, what does that look like? Let me extend the runway. Or, look, I can't work longer. I can't live off less. Can I put more money towards this strategy over the next 5 years? Well, let me go back to my cash flow. Let me see if I scrutinise everything. Let me see if I can make more money there. So it's putting this power back into your hands to play with these levers to go, how does that affect the final outcome? And the other one is, take a higher, more risk, which is generally not what most people want to do, but it's a lever. It's another lever. So you may have been a conservative, really conservative, and popped in 5%. You may need to look at 7, 8%. What does that do to the final outcome? But it's about putting that power back in your hands, understanding those key components, those 4 key components, and then making decisions based on where you are right now to get there, and review it on an ongoing basis. It's that simple. Nobody tells you these things, but there it is. That's it. That's it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
I love that you picked that up.
Yeah, I found, like because I was looking at, I've avoided property because I felt like that was such a strong commitment for someone that's probably a little bit more gypsy life that I lead. but going through this program, I was like, oh, actually, it's not the locked in thing that I thought it was. It really was more of something to support, future growth and all that sort of stuff. And that you've mentioned that many times. It's a growth investment. And so how I also see it is, you're putting money into your investment every month rather than somebody else's investment kind of thing as a renter. So before the program, I didn't have any want or desires to buy something, even though, my family have said for years, you should buy something. Like, no way, I'm not doing that. And so that, your insights and understanding and the reality of where that sits has been amazing as well. And how that builds into the portfolio. So that's one of the fears that this program supported me with, as well as just, I was pretty good with the budget. Like, I'm all over that sort of aspect, but I think part of the seeing money as a support rather than something that you're working against, it's something that works for you. So that mindset change has been amazing as well. And being with the group of women and having the questions, the weekly catch-ups and all this sort of stuff, things that come through, you might not be there yet. Some people are of a different financial component as where you are at the time. But it's really interesting down the track. Oh, that's interesting. I didn't know that. And sort of it sets you up for strategy, even though you might not be there at that point in time. It starts you thinking like, oh, that's interesting. So, when I was looking, because I'm looking to do a first home buyers, I haven't yet, just little bits and pieces I need to get in place. But what I did from knowing with the program was because I work for myself a lot of the time, I wanted to reduce my tax. So I did a personal super contribution, which reduced my tax, which got me underneath the cap of the first home buyer threshold, which actually meant I didn't need to pay LMI, but then I could actually borrow back the the super contribution, so I could actually put it in and then I could use it back out for a deposit. So there was all these strategies that came into play that I wouldn't have even thought about.
And how did you come up with those strategies? Because they're strategies that you discovered all on your own.
Yeah, well, I kind of it was kind of a bit of a journey because I was working with a mortgage broker, and I was a lot of research myself a little bit too. And I deliberately calculated what I needed to get under the threshold for the super contribution. But it wasn't until after the 30th of June where I was like, oh, I can actually borrow that back out my super. So that was something that I found afterwards as well. So, which is
that's one
great.
Of the schemes, isn't it? I'm not all over those particular schemes, but that's one of the. Yeah. I'm not sure what that's called, but it's over and above the first home buyers grant. It's one that you put in non-concessional contributions.
First home guarantee scheme, I think it is something like that. So first home buyer, every state's different, of course, but the first home buyer, I'm in SA, but you can get it if it's new property or it hasn't yet been lived in. So that's one aspect, but this one is separate to that, as long as you're underneath a certain cap of income. So, yeah.
So the program's allowed you to think outside the box in terms of asset classes, different asset classes, and as you know this, but for our listeners, an asset class is shares is an asset class, property is an asset class, fixed interest and cash, and they all have fors and againsts, and they all have a place depending on the goals and strategies of the individual. So in the program, we basically talk about and teach each asset class and, the parameters, the fors and against, the benefits, particularly property, as you know. And so it got you thinking, gave you enough information about that particular asset class to then go off and research it yourself and see whether it did fit in with your own personal situation.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I went through the program, I felt way more empowered, way more in the driver's seat rather than I wouldn't even say passenger thing. I think I was holding onto the bumper of the car at the back, like that's kind of how I felt. And so I was definitely, clawed my way into the car.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
yeah, so once I felt it wasn't a mystery, I feel like some of these things that became all this financial hokey pokey kind of stuff, you didn't really know where you were. But through the program, through the understanding and the step by step, and the ability to go back and go, hang on a second, and then ask the questions, it really does, the whole container hold your hand to go, actually, I can do this. I can step forward. And I think that was the main reason when I was going through this, I'm like, well, I can do this. I can, it's kind of teach a woman to fish rather than give,
Absolutely. That's exactly my
um,
point.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
what
And
the
that's
program
exactly,
is. It's teaching you how to
yeah,
fish. Yep.
yeah,
Yep.
yeah. So, yeah, without that, I wouldn't have even presumed that I could look at all these things and be correct. So, I spoke to probably about 5 mortgage brokers, but because I knew my strategy more than what they did, because obviously some of it wasn't their area and they might not have been working that area for a while or what have you. But I knew enough to find the right broker for me because I knew enough of the strategy. And if they didn't understand the strategy, I knew that we weren't aligned.
Yep.
So do you know what I mean? So just
Yep.
going through, and that actually helped me as well. So sometimes, again, back to the start of our conversation, is when you have something and you're ready, you sort of put your trust in others and hope that they're going to lead the way. And a lot of the times they are doing their best, but they don't have the knowledge. So I feel like having this, you have enough knowledge to be able to then be more discerning and to vet who is going to be the best partner for you for the next steps. So this is really a base point that goes out. So when you're empowered with yourself, obviously this is a financial component, but when you realize you put more trust in yourself after you've learned. So when you go out, you might be more advocating for yourself. When you go see a new doctor, or if you go and do a new class or something, you're like, actually, this is not for me. I know myself more now. I'm more empowered, because it really does extrapolate out into other areas of your life when you have that groundedness for yourself.
Beautifully said. And that is one of the things I've always advocated with this program. The financial empowerment is obviously a given, but it permeates to every other area of your life. You've just said it, and we've seen it with multiple women coming through the program. It's changed their whole life, whether it's their personal relationships or their work or their families, or just simply, as you've just mentioned, when I say sitting at the table, meaning you've gone and spoken to 5 different mortgage brokers, you did that with that confidence within, because you've got the basic foundational knowledge, you've gone through the program, you're feeling empowered, you're feeling confident, and you're feeling deserving. You're not feeling like, I'm not sure what you are, I'm not going to put words in your mouth, but generally speaking, most women have in the past sat there thinking, well, I don't know what I'm talking about, so they're the expert, I'll just go with them. But every single expert has a level of a mental block or some sort of life experience that either helps them or hinders them. So we need to be empowered ourselves, like you, to be able to extrapolate which one is the one for me, And how amazing is that for you to be sitting there feeling, sitting in that beautiful, powerful space for yourself. That just gives me goosebumps. I just
Yeah.
love it. I just love it, Lisa. It's so awesome. So awesome to
Yeah.
hear this feedback.
Yeah, no, well, thank you. You're the awesome, instigator and founder of all of this. You've kindly, and I've actually felt so grateful when I've reflected, either after going through the module or coming off of a call with you. Just the fact that you've done this and you've put this program out there for women with the intention to empower them, to educate them in such a respectful, kind way. It's not what I love. It really is the ethos of education walking with others, walking with those people, with us, and whomever comes into that sphere, whether it be your private clients or the program, and wanting the outcome and wanting the best and wanting to empower. It really is amazing work. I'm so grateful I came across you, and that you chose to do this, because it's been down to you to choose to want to put your energy towards this and towards us. And where a lot of people either don't have the energy or don't have the inclination or just aren't able to teach the way that you do. So yeah, very, very grateful. Many times I reflected that.
Thank you for sharing that feedback, but don't ever underestimate. You did it. You did the work, and where you are is a testament to you of doing the work. But that is the vision for WOW. That's why WOW exists, because that's what I believe. A world filled with women who feel exactly like you, and to put that power back in their hands, because that's what every single woman deserves. And if it's not out there, well, I had to create it, didn't I?
Yeah, absolutely. And thank the universe that you did, right? And I think too, it's a good point, because I I think it's good to note that this isn't a magic bullet. So we're talking, there's a lot of accolades and a lot of joy around this, and unveiling and all those sort of things. However, there is a lot of work, reflection. There's a lot of uncomfortable moments that you sit with yourself. There's some procrastination because you're wanting to, there's some bits and pieces you're like, oh, I don't really want to look at this. And so, having to get over those hurdles to then get to the point, at the other end. I think that's something to highlight for an expectation. You're very good with that as well, letting people know the reality of it. It's not just da-da. Yeah, there is work that goes through. That's part of the grit to get the pearl. You need to have the grit in the shell and the time to actually make the gem.
Yeah, that's a great point as well for our listeners that are listening. Nothing worthwhile comes for free. You've got to put in the work. I often say, as you've probably heard in the Q&A, we're all big girls now, and we know that it takes commitment, dedication to go through something if you want it badly enough to do the work. Yes, I am very open and honest, and that's just the way I roll. Yes, uncomfortable moments where you're confronted by your money story, your DNA, and there it is, it pops up, and you're like, oh my God. I had that epiphany myself when I created those questionnaires that you went through, because I've done it all myself, and I just couldn't believe it was right in front of my eyes. And I went, oh my God, I'm my father. And it was like, oh my God. And that was the first point of them being able to manage my own personal money behavior, because we all have one. And it's okay. We're not, and as you know, as I say, I'm not your fairy godmother. I'm not going to, poof, and you're all fixed. I feel like there's a lot of people out there, and they're all on social media promising the earth and promising this and promising that. And I really dislike that, because life is not like that. That is not real. What is real is getting to a point just like you have and making a decision, and then backing yourself with that decision, but doing the hard work and coming out the other end. And as I say, we're all big girls. We know that we've had to do that in multiple scenarios in our lives, as, working in different places, relationships, raising the kids. Everything has a challenge, but it's about, like you said, the grit. Share with us one moment that you may have had throughout the program, because as you said, there are moments and challenges and times where you just think, oh, I can't do this anymore, and frustration. And could you share one of those with us?
Yeah, I think there was one point where I was like, oh man, okay, well, I'm just not going to finish this now, because I can't get past this module. I can't remember which one it was, but I think it was the money story. It was right at the start, to be honest, and it was, that whole
Yep.
identifying your relationship with money. Where does
Yep.
it come from?
Yep.
And getting through that. And also, I feel like too, it's the permission sometimes I feel like a lot of this is permission. So going through the moment, like, oh, I have permission now to look at this. It's okay to find the awareness. It's okay to go through, permission to look at money, because I feel like there has been a generational programming a lot with women of it's not yours to look at. So it's not your responsibility. You're not to take care of it. It's not yours to touch.
I love
You can
that.
save it. Yeah, you can save it, but it's not anything to do with you. And so I love for me, it's the permission to look at your money story, to look at what your finances are, what is coming in. Not, I think a lot of us avoid it. So when we're looking at the money in, money out, the budget, what's our relationship with, we kind of get told, oh, just be quiet and sit in the corner. This is metaphorically, of course, with
Of
regards to
course.
money, as it gets taught down from our great grandmothers to all that sort of generation. And we haven't, well, for me at least, I haven't had anyone to sit down with me in my sphere to go, okay, this is how you do it. And interestingly, with regards back to the property investment, I had a lot of my family going, oh, you need to buy a property. You should, but no one told me how, why, what the purpose was, what the benefit was, what the ROI, like there was no components, there was no levers of understanding. So I was like, well, that seems to be a bit ridiculous to get a huge debt. And I didn't understand,
Why?
any, the why. And
Yeah.
so that's what it's given me as well. So, so back to your earlier question, definitely the money reflection aspect, because sitting there, I'm not a journal girl. Woman, should I say? I'm not a journal, and I was just like, oh, this is terrible. I can't get through this. But I spoke to Taryn, and just unpicked some of the wound up ball of yarn that'd been sitting there for all my life, just to unpick it and get it all out and straight.
It can be really uncomfortable, can't it? Especially when you come to a realization of, oh, okay. One of the other things when I was building the program and doing those questionnaires was understanding that unless I changed my behaviour, no amount of extra money was going to change my life. There's another massive fallacy that's out there. If I just had more money, all my problems would be gone. No, by the way, no. and I'm sure as I'm saying that, our listeners are going, what are you talking about, Trace? Well, your behaviour or your story in your head that you're telling yourself. What is the story that you're reliving all the time? What are you telling yourself? Because that's going to be your reality, and that is how you're going to it's going to come out in the actions that you perform with your money. And so if you're constantly saying to yourself, who do you think you are? You're never going to get anywhere. Money is for the rich and famous. You're a battler. Da, 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 da. Are you ever going to get ahead? Of course you're not. Never, ever, ever. So the power in being able to open up that mind to be able to go, hang on a minute, have I been looking, what have I been saying to myself, and catching that. So and again, as you know, it's about behavioural management. I do it every day of my life, catching myself going, hang on, I know you're there, but I know better now. I know better. I'm in a better position. And so putting that power back in your hands, Lisa, and all the beautiful ladies that are doing our program, it's just so fulfilling. Can I touch on your level of confidence in money management now? How is your personal confidence in managing your money and preparing for this retirement growth? How has that changed since the program?
Yeah, it's been huge, really. So I had no plan coming into the program. I had funds, but it wasn't organised, or there was no strategy. But going through the program, and then now I can see exactly year by year by year what I'm doing, where it's going, how I'm going to get there. And then the levers. I'm like, well, if I wanted who wanted to retire a bit earlier, well, this is the lever for that. And so the clarity of what I have now compared to where I started beforehand, like the comparison, there's no real comparison, because it's going through from a ridiculous muddled closet to now it's all aligned, and you can imagine walking to a walk-in robe and it's just all ridiculous. Beautiful. And everything's everywhere, but now it's basically going from that to a highly organized, color coordinated, or everything in the right shelf labeled. Do you know what I mean? So
I do. That's how I think. That's my brain that you just described. Yeah. So how would you describe the Empower program to someone who's just starting their retirement planning journey?
Yeah, I would say the program is exactly what you need if you have no plan. And even if you have a plan, it may not be the plan that is correct. So I'd say either way, it's definitely, I'd invest again. I feel like it's a no-brainer, to be honest. Just do it from my point of view. I feel like it really is, that is part of your retirement plan, is going through this program. This is where you invest up front to make sure that you get there in the right way, in the way that aligns for you. Because what I also love about the program is not one thing for everyone. It is based on your risk, based on your current situation. It is nuanced. It is for everyone, no matter what their situation is. So if you've even got $2 to your name to invest, do it, because it's not about that. It's about setting yourself up for where you want to go and give you clarity and the runway to get where you need to go. And even if it's a different runway from what you thought, at least you have the clarity of what it is, what it looks like. And that clarity for me is priceless. I think it's amazing.
I think the way you sum that up is amazing. I couldn't have done it better myself. So final question for you. How do you feel about your financial future now, now that you've got a clearer plan for retirement? I'm guessing you're not hanging on to the bumper bar anymore, as you mentioned before.
Yeah. No, I'm definitely, I feel like going from a car that's on the loose to in the driver's seat with my Google Maps, knowing exactly where I'm going. But also, not only that, I've actually put in the destination. It's not just following a map. I actually know where I'm going. I know where I want to be, and I know the drive and the joy to get there, rather than having all these detours, not knowing, and I'm going to go over here. So I can just imagine, I guess, from the analogy, is going through without a destination, without a map, not in the driver's seat, hanging onto the bumper car, to being in the driver's seat, knowing where I want to go, and enjoying the drive and the journey to get there.
Beautifully said, Lisa. Beautifully said. Thank you so much for your time. It's been such a joy speaking to you. And, this is the only time I get to chat with you beautiful ladies after the program. So, and get that sort of feedback. It solidifies that we're doing everything we can possibly do. It's hitting home. We're making a difference. We're making a dent, if you like. So one woman at a time. You are amazing. Yeah. Never, ever forget that you did this. Yeah? You did this.
Yeah, with you. It's a team effort.
Yeah. We provided the knowledge, but you did the hard work. So congratulations, Lisa, and thank you so much for your time.
Thanks, Tracy.
If you'd like to explore what our Empower program can actually do for you, make sure you book a call with one of our strategists. The call is absolutely free. All you have to do is go to our website, which is wowwomen.com.au, and click the link to our programs. As I said, it's absolutely free to have a call with one of our strategists. If you found our episode today particularly helpful, please share it with a friend, leave a review if you wish, and don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an episode. Until next time, take control of your wealth and your future.